You actually have a decent voice.
Show up at the rouse. I didn't realize how much I sang until I start looking.
No, it's because
I
TikTok.
review the content because I'm the content reviewer. And there's a lot of singing. There's a lot of singing.
That's funny.
It's very odd.
I'm Josh Sigman, and I'm a mortgage lender. I'm also a geek for money, not just earning it and saving it, but literally everything about it. I love that money has rules. It has its truths. I love investment strategies, and I love making money work for us. For so many, money is emotional. For me, it's logical, like a puzzle. My passion is also helping others with their money. I love looking at people's finances, dissecting their puzzle, and rebuilding with strategy and purpose, and I'm really good at it. I'm making this podcast about my money strategies, not the things that are written in books or sold in programs. It's a podcast outlining the lessons I've learned and used for the past 15 years. These strategies help me and those who use them save more, give more, create wealth, and retire early. Let me teach you how to build your net worth. You ready? Welcome to Sigman Sense.
So, welcome back to another episode of
Sigman Sense.
Sigman Sense. Cool. Thank you for everybody that's watching, that is subscribed, that is sharing, that's using the information that they're learning and living a richer life for it, right?
Hopefully.
Pun intended.
That is the plan.
Cool. So I'm actually really excited about today's episode because we are going to talk about our children and our kids and our teenagers and money. So, I think I always find it fascinating how many different perspectives there are when, as far as parenting and what parents feel like kids should pay for or what they shouldn't pay for or lessons they should learn about money. Do they share information? Do they talk about how much things cost, bills, all of that? Everybody has differing points of view. And so we intentionally did not share too much of our thoughts around this, even though we both know a little bit because we've been friends and have known each other for a long time.
Yep.
But
since you were a kid.
Since I was a kid. Back in the day when I was young. And see, case in point, I was just saying how much I sing. It's really weird because I am not a singer. Anyway, so we intentionally didn't share too much of what we were going to talk about so that it, will be nice and fresh. So when we talk about kids and money, let's figure out, okay, so where does this all begin? Where do we begin?
Yep. Well, I think we both agree that our own philosophies with how we teach our kids about money typically comes from how our parents taught us or didn't teach us about money, right?
Yeah.
And so I think the easiest way to start, because I think everyone will relate to it, and I'll share a couple of my stories. I want you to share. I'm curious about yours as well. Is what did our own parents teach us? Because it absolutely carries through. That's why when you look at generational wealth, people that grew up with money and have it for generations, it's because there's some sort of dialogue happening and understanding about money in some way. Not always, but in some way. And then you've got segments of the population that I hate to say it, but having more babies is a paycheck. Right. Yeah. And that's passed on generationally. So the conversation is more about, what will the government do for me? Not what am I going to do for myself? Yeah. Right.
What's crazy is there is so much responsibility that comes with having kids and raising
it's
people.
Weird.
We all know that to be true at the end of the day. But when things start getting real, it gets a little scary. You're like, oh my gosh, I don't know that I should have this is a really big job. Yep. It's a really big job.
I screw up regularly, by the way.
Well, yeah. So we have a 16-year-old now, and this is where things start to become very real. It's like, oh, this is a real job, raising a human. But we always tell her, KK, you're our first. We don't know what we're doing. We have not gone down this path before.
We haven't seen what the result is.
Correct. Yep. So you are our test subject. You are our guinea pig. Yep. So you have to offer us grace, just like we are offering you grace in many situations.
That's funny.
We literally have that conversation weekly.
That's funny. Yeah. It is one of those things where you're just do your best. I find myself apologizing a lot in other areas, but when it comes to money, I think that you got to go back and start with, okay, well, what did I learn from my dad and my mom? And I'll say about money specifically, not much. It's really the honest answer I've got. What I equate money to from my childhood is experiences. So what money did for me was it bought my family experiences, which is literally, that shows through to me now. The only place I blow money, I do not blow money on clothes. I do not blow money on cars. I blow money on trips because I equate money to experiences. I never knew what my parents made. They didn't talk about that openly. I didn't ask. I remember one time when I was probably 6 or 7, pretty young, I watched my mom fill out tax returns.
Oh yeah.
And I'm a weird numbers guy, so it was interesting to me to watch her do it old school, with a pen and paper.
Yeah.
And I watched her filling out all the blanks, and I was trying to follow along just because of because I was watching addition and subtraction, right? Which was interesting to me, but that's the only time I saw a number that, looking back, I think that was their income at the time, but this is back in the 1980s.
Tell us.
I doubt my mom and dad would want me to tell that one.
Oh my gosh. That's good. I actually don't want to know because I'm better now, but it makes me very uncomfortable. I'm like, I don't want to know.
Right.
Even when we help my personal friends with their mortgages, I can't pass them off to the team fast enough.
Yep.
I don't want to know. I don't look at Encompass. I don't want to know.
People get pretty naked pretty quickly.
Get very comfortable.
Yeah. So when I think about that and kind of how it translates now, sharing my story, I told everyone that I knew nothing about money. So when the rug got pulled out from underneath me, proverbially, I had to learn a lot. And so as a result, what I find myself doing is being very open and very honest with my kids about everything. Like if they ask a question, I'm saying it. If they don't ask a question and I think they should understand what they're asking for, like it's annoying to me. Early on it's cute, right? When they were like 1 and 2 and you're in Toys R Us and they're like, buy that for me. You're like, oh, of course. It's annoying to me when my kids are asking me for what they want now. Like, can I get the new iPhone? No, it's $800. The answer is no. You're a freaking 10-year-old.
I love that you said it's annoying, because that's how I feel, and not just about just money things, but when there's example, camp. Okay. Our kid, we've been sending our kids to Camp Champions for several years now. It's a pretty penny. And throughout the year, we have dialogue about their experience at camp, and Are You Going is based on performance at school, performance at home. And the assumption, when they start assuming that they're going, it makes me so frustrated because I haven't done a good enough job of tying the connection of how much it costs, what we sacrifice to be able to do this for them, and then really making them understand, like, have you checked your behavior lately? Have you checked your grades lately? And do you think it's at a level that justifies warrants it? Right? And so I love that you say, like, it's frustrating. And then iPhones and stuff.
But isn't it funny though how often it's I'm frustrated, but we didn't teach them. That's what I mean. In the first place, what they should be looking for.
Right. We haven't articulated it. We haven't drilled it in. But anyways, yes.
Yeah, I'll tell you down to, I actually copied my buddy Rick because he told me this when I'd first started working with him 13 years ago. He told me something that I remembered. And then my daughter happened to ask me the same question. So my daughter was 6 at the time, I guess, pretty young. And we live in a nice house, and she noticed, I think around 6 or 7, that our house is a little bit nicer than some of her friends' houses, right? In just size is all it was, right? And so I remember that she came into the house one day and she said, "Hey, Daddy, are we rich?"
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so I responded the way that I remembered, and the answer is, "No, Daddy's rich. Your future's yet to be determined."
I love that. Yeah. You ain't got shit.
Daddy's rich. And I've ever since, Christy did not like me saying that, but ever since then, just different, different parents, different way of being brought up. And I was very clear. I was like, I want to show you what's possible with making money. I want to show you what's possible with saving money so you can have all the life experiences you can have by the time you're 18, but be really clear. When you turn 18, you're cut off, sweetheart. And so, that's why I needed to perform in school. That's why I want you to excel in sports. That's why I want you to think about higher education, if it makes sense for whatever career path you choose, which is a totally different podcast. But the whole point of the conversation to me is that was the spark then of, well, I don't want them to experience the same thing I did. So I wanted to kind of teach them those types of behaviors. And so I'm just curious for you, what are those conversations, or what are little, do you do chores? Do you you were talking about, are they earning camp champion, or, what do the allowances look like? Or if they want something, is the answer yes, no, or meet me in the middle? Right. So I'm just curious.
I love that. Yeah. So let's start with chores. So chores for me as a kid, we knew exactly what the chores were and what day they were to be done on, and exactly what the money was going to, like what the allowance was associated with those chores. And it was very consistent. And I think one thing that has not necessarily followed through in my adulthood as a parent is the consistency. And as stupid as it sounds, I don't have cash on me a lot. So paying out allowances is not as easy as it should be, right? And so I just fixed that, because I realized that the reason that the kids aren't consistently doing their chores is because I'm not consistently rewarding they're not seeing that instant payoff. And so they're like, whatever, I put like IOUs on the chore board. I'm like, so this I owe you $5 here, $5 here. And that's just not the same. Right. Yep. So I did go to the bank. I pulled out.
That's so interesting. By the way, that's very true, because kids are not patient with money.
They are
and
not.
They'll lose interest if they don't get it right away.
100%. Yep. Like you have to pay them. They got to feel the cash. They have to see their penny bank, their piggy bank growing. And then they'll be pretty willing to do just about anything if they're feeling that reward. So I did go to the bank and got like 6 weeks, 7 weeks, 8 weeks worth of allowance, and it's all clipped in the, it's
of course you're organized,
set aside. So now it's like, here you go, here's your money. But for my kids, I believe that there are chores that are done to earn money, and there are chores you do to earn your keep.
Yes.
To earn your keep as part of the family. And so I have those broken down, like here's every night, Weston, your job is to clean up after dinner. It's to do a sweep of the house and pick up all the stuff that's out of place, keep the entryway organized, water the plants. Like those are your things. And KK, here's what yours look like. And then you have here's what we pay. I pay Weston $5 a week. And there's about 2 things per day on his list. And so that's what earns him his $5 a week. And then his everyday chores is what earns his
do that just for Weston, or do you do it for the other kids too?
Just for Weston.
That's what I figured.
Just kidding. So Walker is 7. For reference, Weston's 10. Walker is 7. And I have not set this up for him yet. He lives in a world where he does chores to earn he's just living in the earn his keep land right now. Partly because the kid has more money than anybody in the family. He has extremely good luck with lottery tickets. So he's
You're kidding me.
I am not kidding. He wins like a lot of money on lottery tickets.
Are you serious?
I'm so serious. So
this is not something to teach.
Don't
Don't buy lottery tickets. That's a
all
fail.
We're teaching Wes or Walker is like, I'm never going to have to work a day in my life as long as I become a good gambler, which is really bad.
That's hilarious.
He loves to break the banks, and they're $5. He'll win $50, $75 at a time, goes back and buys $10, 2 more tickets. We'll continue to win. It is.
Don't teach this. This is bad. Fail.
You should see the little look that you're giving me. Okay.
I'm happy for the little guy though.
And he also saves every penny
Atta-girl.
with his lottery winnings, but also with his birthday money, just everything. He's just saved. So he's got money for the things that he wants and all of that. And then KK definitely has the same thing. She's got her earn your keep chores. And then one thing that we did, when COVID hit, we weren't, our housekeepers, the people that helped us clean our house weren't coming. And she's like, can I do it? Hell yes, girlfriend. So that's
awesome.
We pay her $50 a week to do that. She is all over it. So those are the things that,
you're about to get a marketing helper, by the way. Aubrey wants a job this summer.
Really?
Yeah. So I told her I'd pay her $10 an hour to go through a call list of all of her agents.
Oh, nice.
And so you'll be employing her for a week.
I'm so excited.
To fill out every single.
No, I'm going to put her on our social media. Hello.
Even better.
I mean, the
Even
teens.
That's funny.
If their age
That's
ends
funny.
with a teen, you get to do social media because they are so good. They're
That's funny.
so good.
Yeah. So.
So what do chores look like at your house?
Well, again, chores with my house are a little different than yours. Yours are more organized and structured. We're more reward based on when they do something extra.
Okay.
Right. So there's a lot of stuff that they all do. You know, we've had a lot of animals in my house.
Yeah, you do have a lot of animals.
So those are the basic things that always happen. But when they go out of their way, like I walked out, my son decided to go clean my truck, like literally wash the truck without being asked.
Wow.
And then I walked outside, I saw it, and he looked at it. He's like, "What do you think?" And I said, "Well, it looks awesome, dude." He's like, "Do you think it's worth $5?"
Aww.
I was like, "Well, of course it's worth $5, buddy." And then I taught him that he undersold himself because he's out there for an hour.
100%.
Right?
Weston charged me $35 after that. I'm like, what? No, bro.
So we do it a lot of things like that, but also excelling in academics or sports. We always put rewards out there that are bigger rewards.
Do you pay for A's, pay for B's?
Absolutely. Yeah. Especially the ones that like one of my kids is the hardest worker and it's hardest for him. But when that person succeeds, like I want to really reward well because I think that if you put in extra, if it's easy, the reward should be the same. I'll give you some examples. So when my son was 7 and 8 in baseball, he's like, I would do, hey, if you get a base hit, because he was working batting, he wasn't great at batting at the time. If you get a base hit, I'll give you $5. He's like, awesome. What happens if I get a home run? And he's 7. And I'm like, dude, I'll give you $100.
I mean,
right? Now, but what I'm picturing in my mind is the ball has to go over the fence. Well,
absolutely not. All he has to do is get across home base, brother.
All he has to do is run because those little other kids can't throw and catch. So what he did is he worked the system. He went to my buddy Jeremiah.
Work smarter, not
he
harder.
Went to my wife. He went to my buddy's wife. He had all 4 of us in the line for $100 each for a home run.
What?
This is not a joke.
He will you do not have to worry about his success in life, by the way.
He's going to be a salesperson. And literally, I remember that he hit a ball. It was a good hit, actually, but in a roll past the outfielder. And he's not the fastest kid. And he started running. And he turns first.
You know he had all those other kids in on it, too. He's like,
and he turns
split
first.
The profits.
And he starts throwing, the guy in the outfielder's throwing it into second. And the guy missed second. So he just turns second. But the ball rolls past second halfway to third. And so the shortstop or the pitcher had gone up to go get that. And Mason's eyes are getting bigger and bigger. And the coach is putting his hands up. Stop.
He's like,
and Mason just shook off the coach.
Nope.
And just kept turning. And all of us parents and, myself, Mason at the time had never done a home run. And here he's coming to home. And I'm cheering until about halfway. And then I realized, wait a second.
Shit.
But his face was just full of glee when he passed. And he went straight over to me and Jeremiah and Lana and Chris. He's like, pay me.
I love it.
Holy cow.
That's amazing.
So you got to really negotiate really smart with these kids. But
I feel like the lesson there is you have to be very clear,
concise, and direct with what a home run is.
What a home run is. Yes. And, when we were in 2019's campaign for Weston, his coach put out for every run, I can't even remember the amount of money right now, but anyways, he would, that's what he's paying donation wise to Weston's campaign. And boy, those kids were like, we're going to make you pay. So very, very powerful motivator.
Can I tell you how that works against people too?
Yeah.
I like getting kids into bets where they lose. And making them pay up, because unlike you, who motivates people to gamble, I actually understand
with very, very big rewards.
Right, I understand that most people lose their asses, and it's a good habit to break. I say this because I was a addict at online gaming.
I always forget that.
People forget. I don't know if I even spoke about that, but back in my early 20s, I was really bad, and so when my kids will do bets all the time, like if they're playing basketball and they're like, I'll bet you $5 that I can make more shots than you in the next 10 shots. Then I watch that and then I make them pay up. Because I want them to feel the pain of,
because it is
again, or I'll say, hey, double down. And if they double down,
Ugh.
then I'm going to make them pay that if they lose that too. And I do that intentionally, and I will bet things that I know they'll lose, not because I'm a mean sadist,
Right.
but I'm trying to let them know, like, hey, money's easy to come, but it is really easy to go too.
Really easy to go.
And
to pay attention to what they're actually committing to.
Yep.
You know,
Like,
got to think about it.
Yeah, and that also goes to paying your debts. Like, I'm a big believer as an extra lesson. So I'll make fun of Christy for a second. She had to pay somebody that came by the house that did something for her, and she didn't have any cash handy. So she went and robbed my poor son from his piggy bank to go get the money. So later that day, I had to pay Mason for a lot of these stories come back to Mason for some reason. But anyways, I had to go pay him up for something. And we have a safe, and so we went and opened the safe, and his freaking money was clearly out of place. It was clearly disheveled. Mason went through and counted. And what's really interesting, he counted because he knew how much he had in there.
Good job.
And he said, "I'm missing money."
Oh, baby
and so,
face.
and Christy's not at home. And I'm really sad for him. I'm thinking, man, we have to go kill the babysitter, kill the, somebody stole from my son.
Somebody stole
and I was like, but it's in the safe. Who else has a safe? So I called Christy up. I was like, hey, do you leave the safe open? We had a party 2 days earlier. Maybe somebody got in there. And we're talking, and there's like, no, I mean, why are you asking? I said, well, somebody stole from Mason. And she got really quiet on the phone. and I was like,
she's like,
honey,
it's not stealing, it's an IOU.
She's like, oh, I'm sorry. I forgot to tell you. I said, baby, what you're teaching our kids is it's okay to steal. And I use those words exactly.
Got you, girl. You cover stealing, I'll cover gambling.
Right. And I was really clear. It's like, babe, you have to go to the bank. You have to go get that money, and you got to put it back right away. And it goes back to, I believe firmly that all of us, like, I hate debt. We know that from this whole podcast.
I hate debt.
I hate credit cards. I hate debt. I hate owing people. If I owe you money, I'm writing you a check.
I hate owing people.
I want to be done.
I feel like once you, like, I
think it's important to teach kids that early.
If you don't have it now, when are you going to have it? Like,
actually one of, somebody bet me, I think it was Aubrey bet me something when I was at our ranch, and she bet me something and she lost. And I said, cool, pay me the $10. And she said, well, I'll pay you when I get home. I said, did you make a bet when you didn't have with money you don't have? And she's like, well, I've got it at home. I said, did you make a bet with money you don't have? Come join me. You're going to be working on the ranch for the rest of the day.
Dang.
Right? But I want to instill those types of things with kids early, because that is something I think will serve them well long term. And that carries over to other, going back to what I didn't learn, what I didn't hear from my parents, or maybe they did teach me, I just didn't remember it. Yeah. Right. But let's just talk about, like, going out and
absolutely,
and things like that. One of the easy games, because remember, money means nothing to anybody if they don't understand what the relevance is.
100, or how relative it is. What's the, anyways, keep going. I can't think of what.
No, I'm just saying, like, I do guessing games a lot. Like, start there. So
while you're at a restaurant.
While we're at a restaurant. Yeah. So we're at a restaurant, and there's probably two stories that come out of this with Aubrey specifically, because she's got great taste in food, which is very expensive, unfortunately. And so the first thing I always do is that when the bill comes, especially if it's a little bit higher than normal, you go out to a nice restaurant, or if you're at the coast and, everyone jacks at the price of the coast or whatever. Yeah. Then before I pay the bill, I put the receipt down and I say, how much was it? Kind of like the Price is Right game. Yeah. And people will say all the numbers. And early on, they would always be way, 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 way off. The reason is that they weren't paying attention to what the cost of what they were ordering was, right? Yeah. Well, they don't like losing, because I've had some competitive kids. And so over time, not always, Christy and the kids have started to really pay attention to what they're ordering, because
that's so cute.
I do it so often that they actually will guess, and they're guessing, closer and closer and closer. Yeah. And so recently, going back to that coast story, we went down to the coast, one of the only trips we've done during COVID. We stayed far, 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 far away from people. And there's this one restaurant that was open that had tables that were every third table was open. So you're good. And we go there for a lunch. And, I think, go to the coast for lunch, you're going to get some fried shrimp or fried fish. And it's going to cost you $10 for a basket of fried shrimp, right? Sure. And Aubrey said, hey, Dad, remind me what's filet mignon? What's filet mignon? And I was like, filet mignon is something you don't order for lunch. Sure.
Or
That's
until
what
you can
that
pronounce.
is. Or until you can pronounce it. And she's like, what? Remind me what it is. I said, dude, that's like tenderloin. That's really good
that's
steak.
Such a nice steak.
She's like, oh, I really like that. I said, did you see how much it is? And, just like many restaurants, you have the lunch menu and the dinner menu on the same menu, right? She literally looked at it and then she looked at me and she goes, oh. I say, so we don't order dinners that are for adults for lunch on a whim. That's not what we do. Yeah. So she said, oh, I'm sorry, Dad. And so we ordered some fried shrimp or whatever she got. Actually, ceviche or something like that. It was something good.
Yeah.
But it's things like that I don't think people talk about enough. Like our kids ordered off the kids menu till probably they were 2 years too old to be ordering off the kids menu,
Yes.
And it's not because I can't afford it, but I can't stand when people leave half of their plate full because their eyes are too big for their head and oh, it's okay. It's Sunday dinner. So we're going to all go out and just blow money. Like eat what's on your damn plate. Understand what you're paying for.
For sure. And I think we've talked about this in another episode. We just don't really go out to eat as a 5-person family all that much.
Too expensive.
It's too expensive. I don't know. I feel like if me and Randy are going, if we're eating out at a restaurant, it's on date night.
Yeah.
I don't know.
We're special then.
Yeah, we do. We do a lot of takeout and stuff like that as a family. But I love the idea of like making them really think through how much these things cost. Okay, school clothes and back to school shopping. So, or actually just, things in general, right?
Mm-hmm.
As far as clothing and accessories and shoes. When they're little, it's easy.
Mm-hmm.
You
buy it for them and they wear it.
And they wear it and they don't care what it looks like or brands. But as they get older, that completely changes. And so obviously with a 16-year-old daughter, we experience a lot of this. And one thing that I've just kind of adopted over the last couple of years with her is, as your parent, KK, I want to make sure that you have everything that you need that's essential, right? Which in my opinion for back to school shopping is, obviously all your school supplies and things like that and a backpack and then a couple of really good pairs of jeans, enough tops to kind of mix and match, a good pair of tennis shoes, some sneakers, and a pair of sandals, just the basics to build out a wardrobe. But then you get things like, well, she wants a pair of Doc Martens, which are $150 pair of boots, and all the other little things that are name brand, on trend, and really important to her to have as a teenager. And so I've kind of I've adopted two ways of handling this. One is we can get less of the other essentials and I can meet you halfway. So I'll pay $75 and you pay $75 for the Doc Martens or whatever expensive item it is. Or I'll still cover all the basics and you are going to purchase
I love that.
Those on your own because it is outside of necessity, and $150 for a pair of shoes for a 16-year-old is a lot in my personal opinion. So anyways, that's kind of how I've handled that. And really, as far as school clothes and things, I haven't experienced that with my boys yet because they're still in that age. It's like, you can go to Academy, you can hit up the outlet malls, here's 10 pair of shorts, 10 shirts. They're happy as can be. And, but
that's awesome.
But as they get older, so I don't know.
How do you deal with cars? I didn't even think about this. So you have a 16-year-old daughter. So what do you do with, what's the deal there? So
it was kind of interesting. We came to a point in our life where I needed a new car. Randy needed a new car. And then KK was about a year out from turning 16.
Right.
And so we actually, I did end up financing a car with the
lower payment than you had last time.
By almost $300. But I was budgeted. Okay. We talked through that in the budget meetings. And so we got that one. And then we paid cash for a Jeep that Randy was going to drive until KK turns 16. Well, she's turned 16, but when she gets her license. I wish I could say that there was more strategery around that.
Oh, I like that word.
Strategery, is that a word? This is not something that Randy and I talked about, as parents, what are we going to do about a car for KK? When it presented itself, we came up with a plan.
Yep.
Now, he's been driving the car, which also has some extra benefits as well, because he's getting to work out the kinks and really understand the car before
Yep.
we let her take off on it and then, end up with, stuck on the side of the road or whatever. So that's actually been really good. She's also had the chance to learn on the car. So she's way more comfortable driving it.
Yep.
But yeah, so I guess the answer is we paid cash for a car for her that she'll get. And I think I would have loved a more excited response. She was excited. She was also a year away from getting her license. So it was a little like, yay, I'm excited,
Yep.
but this isn't really mine yet.
Right.
Now that she is inching closer to her license, she'll be getting it in probably 6 weeks. She is literally so appreciative and is just like, you guys are the coolest parents ever. Like, look at my car. Like, look at it. I mean, Jeeps are badass, right?
That was my first car, actually. I had a little red Jeep.
Did you really?
1991 Jeep Wrangler. Yep.
I've never had a
Yeah.
Jeep before.
I love it.
And
And
so
then I had a midlife crisis, and I bought my wife one for Mother's Day.
you bought your wife one for did she? Okay.
Yeah. Well, I had a midlife crisis, so
And
I bought my wife a Jeep for
Nice.
Mother's Day.
Okay. I'm still trying to play that one out in my head.
So this is called strategery.
Strategery.
Yes.
Is that a word? Did we decide if that's a word?
I'm sure it is. So other things to think about. So let's get into the financial side of things too.
Yeah. Now, I will say, we just set her up a bank account.
Good. Did you give her a debit card?
She has a debit card.
Good.
And we told her that 20%, Randy actually told her this. He said 20% of whatever amount of money that you have, you need to put in your savings account. So she has 2. And so she's literally calculating it. I mean, because she's earning her money.
That's awesome. Randy did that?
Randy did
Good.
that.
That's
And
huge.
he didn't even tell me. KK, when her debit card came in, she comes bouncing in. She's like, oh my gosh, here's my card. It's got my name on it. And I
That's
said,
awesome.
that's awesome. And so how much money do you have in there? And, what did y'all have to do to set it up? And so she told me, and then she said, and Dad told me that whatever the total amount of money I have is I have to peel 20% off and put it in the savings account that I can't touch.
That's amazing.
I'm like,
That's
that
amazing.
parenting win.
Well, and that goes back
Parenting.
to the fact that and you guys are talking about it will serve her well down the road. That's
yeah.
versus not talking about it. I just got caught, personally. But separate of debit cards, one thing that I'm actually actively doing as we speak is add your kids to credit cards. Don't give them the credit card, but add them the credit card because especially if they're that teenage years and they've got a few years before college or coming up pretty quickly or just job in general. And the reason why I think it's super important to do that is you've got to establish credit for your kids.
Yeah.
So that their first car, when they go out on their own, the first house that they buy, they're not paying exorbitant rates because they've established credit history.
Credit, yeah.
By being a authorized user on one of your credit cards, but they don't need to know that. And they don't have to have the credit card.
Those are the asterisks to pay
this is
attention
some
to.
asterisks, but you're trying to set them up for a win down the road.
Yeah.
I do think it's important to talk to people about the difference, kids specifically, the difference between credit cards and debit cards, because it's super weird to me. And I love what you said earlier about I want my kids to feel the cash, I want them to see the cash. You got to give them the cash. Because this has been 2 or 3 years now, but my youngest, who at the time was probably 4, Presley was 4. I remember, I was having a conversation with one of the older kids about Starbucks, and they wanted me to add on 2 or 3 other things. And I said, "Where do you think the money's going to come from?" And Presley piped in from the back seat saying, "That plastic thing." And I was like, "Okay, cool. So let's talk about this, right?"
So funny. I can remember specifically being at the grocery store with my mom when I was a kid and her going, golly, I just don't have any money. And I'd go, just write a check.
And then
Isn't
watch
that funny?
it bounce and bounce and bounce and
down
bounce,
the
right?
road. Isn't that funny?
It is. And it's just something, the thing, again, if we don't talk about, people don't understand it.
Yeah.
Debit cards being you've got the cash to use, and credit cards being I don't got the cash to use, and I'll hopefully make it up and pay it back eventually, right? The other things I think that can really be a good conversation with kids early on is college accounts. So if you're at a stage where you're able to set up college accounts, this kind of goes in that same vein as far as weddings too, right? But with college accounts, what I really get back to is all 3 of my kids are aware that they have college accounts that I'm actively participating and putting money into, right?
Yeah.
And I told them all, regardless, that the two big things I think are really helpful. Number one, if they get a scholarship, they can use that cash to buy a house. Like
Nice.
I'm still going to give them the money,
Yeah.
but they'll use that cash to get a house. If they don't get a scholarship, they're going to take out student loans for the first 4 years.
Really?
Yeah, because I don't want to start writing a check and then it takes them 7 years. So I'm going to have them take out student loans for those 4 years,
so that
because they're deferred anyways. They don't have to pay any money
to keep them on track for graduating. Is that your?
Let's just say, for example, that by the time they're in college, they've got $100,000 that they know is for college.
Okay.
And by then, let's say college and universities are $40,000, $30,000 a year.
Right.
Well, if they're taking out student loans and they see the student loan go from 30 to 60,
Okay.
they're more likely to finish in 4 years.
Okay.
Because
so
you're only getting the 100.
Yeah.
I got 100 for you.
Right.
So finish your freaking job. Get it. If you're going to do student loans, get it done in that period of time.
Yeah.
Because I'm not going to pay for 6 years. That's not what paying for college or helping for college means.
Right.
And if they start the pursuit of college and they don't finish, they will not get the college money.
Gotcha.
Right. So
Yeah. I mean, that's what Andy
that
Mashinsky.
doesn't mean that college is for everybody.
No.
You know,
no.
I do think that there are certain things that you shouldn't go to college. You know, there's certain professions that it'll be a waste of money and they'll never get out of, especially higher education than that. Some master's degrees are ridiculous. I'll give you an example.
I can't wait to talk about that because we're going to make an
We'll do a
episode
whole
out of that.
So I think it's kind of ridiculous what some of the higher level degrees are.
Yeah. But I think parameters are important. And I remember Andy Mashinsky told me, he said, you've got 4 years of tuition and 4 years of rent paid for you. Past that, you're on your own, girlfriend.
Yep.
And then gave me the means to have to purchase things on my own for school. So I could really feel, holy shit. Like I just bought books and it was $800.
Yep.
I saw the tuition bill.
Not, it just magically showed up on your table.
100%. I'm
That
like,
goes back to
oh my gosh, like there's not a chance in hell
Yep.
I'm doing this shit on my own. So 4 years,
I love that.
Done.
I think it just really goes back to just be okay and about talking about, it's kind of like the difference of parents that have a discussion about sex with their kids versus the parents that just avoid the conversation altogether. Generally speaking, it shit doesn't work out,
it
right?
just doesn't work out.
It's the same thing with money is what I
Yeah.
really believe. If you make it a comfortable conversation for people to learn and
Yes,
understand,
and
it's going to be okay.
in a normal dialogue
Yes.
that's coming up often.
Yeah. That's why I think the guessing game is really super important.
Yeah, I like that.
my daughter's 13, but she's already talking about what I want this car.
Mm-hmm.
So putting it into perspective, right? I was like, cool. Like, what kind of car do you want? And she told me some ridiculous car.
Please tell me.
Doesn't matter. She told me some ridiculous car. And I said, cool. How much do you think those cars are cost? And she couldn't answer because she'd not looked at those before.
Sure.
And I said, well, that car costs about 2 years of work.
Oh, I love that.
It's about
I love that because when you say a number, that's a $47,000 car. Okay.
No, it's like 2 years of take home.
Yes.
For a starting job. That's 2 years of work. So are you going to start now? Because you've got 3 years before you're 16. Like if you want to start right now and work full time on top of your schooling, maybe.
Yeah.
But I always want to, when they say, I like this, I want to do this, I want to travel here, I want to stay here, I want to order this, I want to buy this. Well, how much do you think it's worth? And then equate it to time because all my kids now are they understand $10 an hour because no kid likes a full hour of work. And I tell them all, if you work 53 minutes, you don't get your $10 an hour because if I do most of my job and I don't get it all done, I don't get paid.
I don't get paid.
Right.
Yes.
So if you don't do the full hour, you don't get paid.
Yeah.
And when they were picking up rocks at the ranch, which I love making them do, just pick up rocks for an hour, you can get $10. It equates to holy crap. You're telling me that this video game is 5 hours of picking up rocks?
Yeah.
Yep. You want it?
Sure
I'll happily
is.
I'll buy it for you. I need a little ranch hand, buddy.
Yeah.
And that kind of conversation, open and honest, putting things in perspective, relativity to time.
Yes.
That is the key with kids, in my opinion.
And I think too, and I've talked about this before, you can buy movies on Amazon now or whatever, Amazon Video, Prime, whatever. And it's super easy to purchase those. Just put in your code and voila, we have a new movie.
Yeah.
And, I ask the kids if they have an idea of a movie. It's like, okay, well, do y'all have $6, $8, $10, $20 that you want me to pay for this movie? Do y'all have the money to pay for it?
Yep.
And sometimes they're like,
Yep.
yeah. Sometimes they're like, yeah, absolutely. And they go get me the money. Now, sometimes I take it. Sometimes I don't, it's like, I just want to make sure that
they really want it.
You really want it.
Yep.
And other times they're like, oh, no, never mind. There's plenty of other free movies to watch.
Imagine that.
Yeah. So it's interesting.
Yeah, it's the enabling conversation, right? And then we get frustrated about it, but we're not doing anything to work on it and teach them. So
that's the thing. Yeah, it's kids
learn the bad behaviors.
They do
from somebody.
They do.
Guess who?
That's what I mean. It's like a real responsibility to have bring humans into the world, and to raise them to be like grand citizens of society that
are contributing members of society
that I want to hang out with when they're adults.
Yep.
Like, I don't want a bunch of assholes. I want to be able to like you, you got to be,
and you
cool
contribute
humans.
to society and you pay your taxes, not you're taking from the government like that. That's what this is all about. So I hope you guys enjoyed this little segment of Sigman Sense.
Yes. Tell us what you think too. I would love to hear what, everybody else's opinions are and with money and kids and tricks and tips and hacks and all that. So
like, subscribe, share.
Absolutely.
Until next time.
Till next time.
Take care.
Bye.